And welcome back to Who Would Win. Hey, where am I? Hold on. I am right there. Welcome back to Who Would Win, the week Who Would Win. This one comes from Trey H, who asked the question, who would in a fight? Wolverine versus, and it's not Angor, it's Angor. Angor Rot from apparently Troll Hunters TV, the antagonist of Troll Hunters. Never watched Troll Hunters, but I am aware of it, and I've heard actually it's pretty solid. So maybe at some point in my long life, hopefully, that I'll get around to watching that. Um, so it's kind of weird I don't know exactly what the real connection between them is, but let's just get into it. Wolverine James Howlett was born in the I think it's early 1800s. Activates a mutation after his um, real father killed his thought to be father and then his mutation activated his mutation, and he then spent the next 2 centuries ish of time, fighting wars, making love to beautiful women, and just overall being a badass, and also having God knows how much crap done to you in your entire existence. For instance, losing God knows how many women you've loved, having to kill your kids on several occasions. Hell, there was one point where he actually killed a dozen or so of his illegitimate kids who had plotted against him. Had the adamantium ripped from your skeleton while you were still alive, and then losing your healing factor for a while. You were killed, sent to hell. You were then lost your healing factor due to a macrovirus, then were encased in molten adamantium, killed again. Don't forget the times the stories where you've been mind controlled by I believe it was like Wolverine, enemy of the state, where he was basically controlled by Hydra. Wolverine has had a effed up life, man, and he still keeps on ticking. Good for him. Wolverine's mutation, as we all know, is mostly revolved around his healing factor. Now, he has a bunch of sub-mutations around that as well, but let's, at the moment, focus on the healing factor. His healing factor has varied in years, but is... When people talk about strong healing factors, Wolverine is usually the go-to character they think of. Now, there are characters out there that have healing factors well beyond his, but his healing factor is still no joke. He can... Small wounds like a cut will heal pretty much instantly. Larger wounds will take longer, but he'll still end up recovering from them. With the minute that he's injured, his body immediately reacts. So blood loss is mitigated as it's healing. He's pretty much not bleeding anymore, so it's near impossible to bleed him out. He's immune to most, if not all, diseases, most poisons he's immune to. He has survived God knows how many things. He survived being in the Ultimate Universe. It's a little bit of a different story, how it's theorized his powers work, but he survived being decapitated because his joints, at least in the Ultimate Universe, were not laced with adamantium. In the basic main Marvel Universe, it is actually laced with adamantium. They are. All of his body is laced with adamantium. All of his bones and the joints covering his bone are laced with it. Not like solid. If there was truly solid adamantium, he'd never be able to move it. Like, he'd be stuck like that. But no, that's not the case. But he survived being blown up by Nitro, who basically incinerated every part of his body except his bones, which are adamantium, obviously, and his brain, which, because his healing factor stems from his brainstem, he was able to regenerate. So he survived that. He survived being cut in half. He survived being eviscerated. Survived having limbs taken off. He has survived. He survived the vacuum of space. Great, he can't breathe in space, but he has survived being in the vacuum of space, which, you burn and freeze simultaneously. And he survived that. He's got insane pain tolerance because of this, which ultimately takes enough pain, puts him into his berserker rage. We'll talk about that in just a second. But then obviously his bones are laced with an adamantium skeleton, or his bones are laced with adamantium, giving him an adamantium skeleton, which is nigh indestructible. There are things that can mess up an adamantium skeleton or adamantium in general, but they're so far and few between that it's usually doesn't need to be brought up. Then you have the secondary mutations, which gives him enhanced animal senses, enhanced hearing, sight, smell. He can track people by scent, hearing, touch. All of his senses are enhanced. He can taste if something's poisoned. His mutation keeps him at peak human physicality, like constantly. He can lift at least a ton. So he's actually a little above peak. He's low superhuman. He's got enhanced endurance. He's got enhanced endurance, enhanced physicality, enhanced speed and reflexes, enhanced and just physically enhancements, physical enhancements. And then you get into the Berserker Rage. He goes into a mindset where everything is just amped and he's just out of control. He's lived over a century. I think he's going on 2 centuries now in terms of his age, and he's still in peak human performance. He has learned God knows how many martial arts. He is actually extremely intelligent. He's not a genius per se, but he's extremely intelligent. Beast once described his mental capabilities as being, when he was in the Danger Room, as being, I believe, like 4 Olympic athletes doing simultaneously doing like 3D chess or something, like 3 different games of 3D chess or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but Wolverine's actually very intelligent. And therefore, he's also, because he's experienced in the past, he's also quite the tactician as well. He's gone toe-to-toe with individuals like the Hulk, for God's sake. I think people sleep on Wolverine sometimes, just how strong he actually is, like as an overall character. He's never truly beaten the Hulk in a fight, but he literally can go, because of his indestructibility and his animal-like ferocity and tenacity, he can literally go toe-to-toe with heavy hitters like the Hulk, like the Thing. Now, can he beat them? And only in certain comic runs. But he's still a vicious fighter, and obviously one of most people's favorite characters. Angor, we'll just call it Angor, but Angor is basically served as a main antagonist in the second half of Part 1, a posthumous antagonist in Part 2, and a tertiary turn redeemed antagonist in Part 3 of Troll Hunters, and he makes a minor appearance in Wizards. He was described as actually being a very caring individual who wanted to protect his people. Trolls. He is a troll, by the way. Despite his dog-like appearance, this is what trolls kind of look like. But his physical appearance is more lithe and humanoid than the standard troll. He unfortunately was tricked by an individual named Morgana, who ultimately made him sell his soul to give him power. As such, he became ruthless, vicious, and a killing machine. He has a troll physiology, which makes him stronger and more resilient than a human and most trolls, likely due to possessing Morgana's magic. He has superhuman strength, which allows him to really, which allows him to be strong enough to defeat troll hunters one-on-one, although he struggles against extreme strength, such as Drawl, who I'm going to look that up to get an idea how strong we're talking a character here, because they don't really give... They do it by... They're talking about the character by comparison. Let's see, Drawl, Troll Hunters. How strong is this guy? I can already tell this is a very beefy dude here. This is a very powerful dude. Probably well beyond Logan's level of strength, honestly. But, let's see here. Strength, troll physiology. That doesn't actually give much in the way of strength feats here, but I can tell this guy is extremely strong in terms of his size and design. But yeah, he's got enhanced strength. So he doesn't usually rely on strength, preferring to use his cutting skills instead. He's got superhuman endurance, durability. Thanks to his stone skin, he's more durable than a normal human, able to shrug off being hit by multiple cars. So he'll survive falling off a cliff. It's possible he is tougher than most trolls, as in the series finale, he was stabbed by the Eclipse Blade and still didn't die until Morgana herself shattered him. However, this may have something to do with the fact he was resurrected at the time. Enhanced stamina can go much longer and faster, longer and harder than most other people can, endurance-wise. Superhuman speed, much faster than an ordinary human, can keep up with Jim Vespa in the speeding automobile in a dead sprint. Superhuman reflexes, faster than the average human. Superhuman agility, superhuman sense, and semi-immortality. He won't age and immune to disease and stuff like that, but he can fall in battle. So just from a physical standpoint, before going any further, I would give this fight to Wolverine. Wolverine, he maybe isn't as strong physically overall as this guy, but in terms of indestructibility, healing factor, weaponry, obviously he has adamantium claws. He's just clearly got the better tools to take this guy down physically. But there's more to this character than that. He actually has quite a bit of magic on his side. So we have to... Wolverine can fight magic users. That's not a question. It's more that, is the spells that this character is capable of casting capable of countering Wolverine himself? To answer that question, we need to go over everything he has. So he was considered one of the most powerful sorcerers in the world, possessing great power. He was capable of casting over 100 spells. In addition, some of his spells were so powerful that some required powerful spellcasters and or special gemstones to break, loophole, or ward off. He had magical energy manipulation. Basically, he could just use magical energy for various effects. One of his main ones was firing a pink magical blast that explodes on contact. All right, let's just go down the list and compare it to Wolverine real quick. Wolverine could take the hit. In theory, all you have to do to win the fight is knock Wolverine out. But Wolverine is taken far worse than that. So I don't think that would matter much. Mark of Angor Rot. One of his most potent spells in this is his mark. When he paints his mark upon a target's face, this spell allows him to take control of the Sword of Daylights. I don't know how that works in this case. Because is it just that he puts his mark on anyone? Does it have to be a troll hunter and he gets the sword? Or does that matter? Either way, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do that on Logan. And even if he does, I don't know if that matters. We'll come back to that and just give the hypothetical if that matters. Shadowmancy, but it's limited. He is very familiar with shadow magic. He's able to use Morgana's shadow staff proficiently. However, he cannot actively perform shadow magic without the staff itself. So if Wolverine essentially just cuts the staff in half, which is very possible, then it's not going to matter. That's out of the equation. With the staff, it might be problematic for Wolverine, but it's not going to be able to kill Wolverine with this. Soul absorption. After losing his own soul in exchange for his magic, he had been collecting the souls of fallen troll hunters he had killed in order to fill his own void. He later loses the souls he stole when he when he was killed in something rotten. This way comes. However, after regaining his soul during his resurrection, he no longer needs to steal souls, though at first he was unaware of this. Wolverine has actually had his soul taken and owned by demons before, so I actually feel like this might not be a big issue. He might actually be able to hold this off. And even if he tries to steal his soul, Wolverine just comes in and rushes him and just stop him. So I'm going to call that one a wash. Telekinesis has the ability to use forms of telekinesis, though it's clearly weaker than Morgana's. He is able to bind Jim to the wall and keep him immobilized just before the Stricklers intervened. The fact that he can bind and hold someone with telekinesis, that's going to be an issue for Wolverine. Because Wolverine has no abilities he has no ability to counteract telekinetic abilities. He actually has a lot of protection from telepathy, but not telekinetics. Technopath. He's shown to control, had a limited control of technology. If they're in a fight with no technology, or if they are in a fight with technology, it would matter minorly. He has a levitation ability. Okay, great. That doesn't matter here. Animus totem crafting. Commonly creates totems out of living stone of his own body. Golem summoning. When the totems are in contact with inanimate substance such as mud, glass, crystal, they basically become a golem of that. It would give Wolverine a bit of an issue for a while, but Wolverine is torn through Sentinels, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. Fate binding, severing. With his totems, he can also intertwine the fates of two individuals, meaning if one gets hurt, the other will as well. And vice versa, as he did with Stickler and Barbara. Angor once implied that he can sever the connections, though he was never shown doing this. See, this I think would actually, if he did this would bite him in the ass, Wolverine. Because he's like, you kill me, you kill yourself. First off, Wolverine's healing factor is leagues above what this guy's healing factor is. So anything that would kill this guy probably wouldn't kill Wolverine. And second off, Wolverine's one of those guys who on occasions has just accepted death with a smile and just let it happen. And will let himself die if it means taking down the dangerous enemy. So, yeah, if he does that in the fight, Wolverine's like, yeah, been dead. It's like, you kill me, you kill yourself. Been there, done that, Bob. And just takes it, takes his head or whatever, and just screams, like, yeah! And Wolverine just heals up or whatever. And he's able to summon his pixies that will use a chant, pixies, whatever. He is a skilled sword user, tracking and hunting and tactician. His weaknesses, though, are direct sunlight, which he wears a cloak for protection in the sunlight for that. But it will, fight, that's not, especially a physical fight, which Wolverine would be, utilizing. That's the problem. This fight would have to take place at night for him to have the best advantage. He had a former weakness that we're not going to talk about, and then the Eye of Angor rot. If properly cut, his own eye can be used to counteract his magics, as shown. Jim uses it to reclaim daylight from Angor's control. Interesting. He does have some equipment, including Creeper's Sun Dagger, and it's one of his secondary weapons. It's a short weapon with a hooked blade with a slot on its hilt for a crystal to be inserted. He uses a special crystal to poison the blade with Creeper's Sun Poison, which can turn anything the dagger cuts into stone. Angor uses the blade to petrify many inhabitants. So, because it is magic, well, I don't know if Wolverine, like, well, no, the crystal is magic to create poison, but the poison itself isn't magical. Wolverine's actually been petrified before, but he's come back when him and Hercules actually fought a Gorgon. I don't know. That we'll talk about that. That might be one of the few methods he might actually have to beat Wolverine here. His eyes he's able to pull his own eyes out of his socket, and he can use them to spy on prey. That really wouldn't matter in the fight. Stasis trap. He has special stones, which are able to completely immobilize anyone or anything like Jim, and suspend several dark stones in midair. One of the few ways to free someone from the stasis is to knock them down without touching the stones to deactivate them. Shadow Staff, he doesn't have that anymore, so actually he can't even use the shadow magic now. The Sword of Daylight, he only briefly had that. Okay. He became able to command the Sword of... Okay, the Sword of Daylight thing is not going to matter in this fight, now looking at it. He briefly had a Kill Stone, but he only briefly had that, and he formerly had that. So, okay, there are two... So I'm looking at this entire list of abilities this guy has. Wolverine's got the tenacity to kind of plow through all this. Of all the things he has at his disposal to actually not even kill Wolverine, but stop Wolverine, the telekinesis, which could do something, but he's got to hold Wolverine there. So the telekinesis is just a stopgap. There's no way for him to beat Wolverine with telekinesis, unless he decides to ragdoll him a little bit. And even then, it's debatable if he has that level of power with it. We know he can hold someone against the wall or ceiling or something, but can he ragdoll someone? And even then, Wolverine's taken far more damage than that, and still not been knocked out. But really, it comes down to the two abilities, or two things that he has. The Stasis Trap, which, if, again, he uses it, then he basically knocked him about touching the stones to deactivate. Then, yeah, I mean, if he touches, or if he uses that on Wolverine, Wolverine's just stuck up there now. Then he can't do anything. And then the Creeper's Sun Dagger, I feel... See, when Medusa, or I don't know if it was truly Medusa. I know it was a Gorgon, but let's just say Medusa. When Medusa froze Wolverine, it's because she literally had magic. That's what her supernatural ability was. It wasn't like anything his body could react to counter it. Wolverine has literally taken a shot of hallucinogenic snake venom to cause him to trip, and then shaking it off. So I will say this. I think the thing with poisons in Wolverine is they do initially work. His body just ultimately overcomes them. So because it's a poison, I think that, yes, its body, wherever he gets cut, would start to turn to stone, but it would stop after a while. And ultimately, it would probably recede, like an antibody eventually. But Wolverine would start to turn to stone, but then his body ultimately stops it. And it hopefully would revert back. Even if it doesn't revert back, and he's just now turned to stone, that part, he would have no hesitation to cut that limb off and just keep fighting. Eventually, hopefully, regrowing the limb. Because to be fair, we've never actually seen, that is the one thing, even though I brought up Wolverine, but it's the one thing we've actually never seen Wolverine do is regrow a limb. As far as I know, he's regrown from himself from a drop of his own blood before, but there was a cosmic circumstance behind that. Otherwise, like in the X-Men Age of Apocalypse storyline, he actually lost a hand to Cyclops' energy blast, and it didn't grow back. Whereas, so yeah, I think unless he gets cut in the face or the head, then I don't think I don't think he's going to be taken down by the Creeper Sun Dagger. But that is, I think, a way to put him down if you get the good hit in, to get the best hit in. But yeah, ultimately, if this fight, if he's not able to use any ability of his abilities to, if he's not able to really use the stasis trap effectively, and he doesn't get a proper hit in with this Creeper Sun Dagger, then I will give this fight to Wolverine. And this basically just comes down to the fact that Wolverine can pretty much murk any of the most of the shit that he can throw at him. Even with the telekinesis, that's not a way to beat Wolverine. That's just a way to temporarily stop him, because he's even described as having limited telekinesis. The only two methods I can see him having to actually stop Wolverine legitimately, would be his stasis trap, which Wolverine just wouldn't have a counter for, and he'd be stuck with that, stuck floating until it's done. Or the Creeper Sun Dagger, and even then, that's debatable if he gets hit, especially if he like cuts him in the abdomen. Wolverine could sense he's turning to stone and just cut that part of him out and then just regrow that back. If it's any part that doesn't have any solid bone, or if it's hitting like his bicep or something like that, he can honestly just cut that chunk off and be done with it. And Wolverine has no hesitation in doing that. So again, if he's unable to get Wolverine with either of those techniques, Wolverine's taking the fight hands down. However, if he's able to use the stasis field, and I think the stasis field is the best option here, then Wolverine can't win because he can't do anything in the fight anymore. So, what's the most likely outcome? I believe it or not, I think it is Wolverine winning, because even with the stasis field, I don't think he's going to let up the fight. I think he's going to say, I think Angor's most likely going to be, is most likely going to say, want to now try to like kill Wolverine outright. Unfortunately, I think that's going to cause Wolverine to eventually be freed, and then just completely berserker rage into this fool, and he's just not going to be able to, deal with Wolverine's, ferocity. So, yeah, I am going to go with Wolverine, but there's definitely an avenue for this guy to win. Definitely. And even without the two main things that will allow him to win, I don't think it would just be like he'd go down instantly. I think he'd be able to put up a legitimate fight. I just think Wolverine is going to be able to overcome anything he throws at him long term. That is, though, just my opinion. Obviously, I've never watched Troll Hunter, so let me know if you feel different. And if you do, that's cool. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you later.